Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:20, February 9th, 2023. Roll call, trustee Fapua,
Here.
trustee Brown, present, trustee Rudolph,
Present.
trustee Cavanera,
Present.
trustee Abalana, present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd just like to remind everyone of our mission and vision statements. Mission is to engage, educate, and empower. And our vision statement is the Bayshore community, growing engaged hearts, educated minds, and empowered visionaries. With the approval of the agenda, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. And item number 3, public comment. Superintendent Bill, are there any public comments?
I have not received any.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is consent items. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. And item 5, educational services. I'd like to hand this over to Superintendent Beal.
Okay, thank you. So we have joining us this evening a representative from the Super Eval program. Her name is Melissa, and she's joining us from Pittsburgh. Is that correct?
Yes,
Melissa?
that's correct.
Thank you for being up with us this evening.
My pleasure.
So Trustee Abalana brought to my attention this potential resource for the board to consider as a format that we can utilize to help with the evaluation process, both the superintendent evaluation and the trustee self-evaluation. So Melissa, we will have you share your presentation, and at the end we'll have questions.
Okay, so I haven't used this platform before. Let me click present and hopefully you'll be able to see my screen.
Actually, you don't need to. No, so our Mr. Dyson has your presentation up and available. I don't know, would she be able to see it? Okay. So he can advance the slide.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. My name's Melissa again, and I'm with a company called PLS Third Learning. If you could advance the slide just once, that would be great. Thank you. The company is PLS Third Learning, and we've been around for 20 years or so. PLS Third Learning is an ed tech company, and we have a team of educators that work with developers to develop web-based platforms that are being used in schools all over the world. And our goal is to continually improve K-12 schools. Next slide, please. So I'm with the Super Eval division, and we developed Super Eval to transform the evaluation process for not only the superintendent, but also the board of trustees and the entire leadership team. Next slide, please. Thank you. What had happened was we had a team of educators that were researching the challenges in leadership evaluations. And I just want to go over some of those challenges that we've been able to uncover and resolve. Many times, superintendents and school districts didn't have any set goals at all, or they were loosely defined and the expectations were vague. So superintendents were being evaluated on items that they weren't even aware that they were being evaluated on. Sometimes there is no evaluation at all, but people are craving professional feedback. Most schools don't have any instruments whatsoever. They're doing everything paper-based, and superintendents have to collect evidence in 3-ring binders. And a lot of times the end of the year creeps up and you're facing deadlines and you are scrambling trying to remember everything that happened over the past 12 months. And with as busy as you are, it's difficult to find the time to document everything throughout the year and all the amazing accomplishments and celebrations throughout the year. Next slide, please. One other big issue was Likert scales create uncertainty. So what a 3 means to one trustee may mean something completely different to another. And on top of that, boards have to manually collect all the feedback and comments and manually put everything together and average all the board's ratings. So a lot of times it was just too much hassle for anyone to start or finish in the first place. Next slide, please. And another big issue, and this is just really with evaluations in general, the methodology was inadequate. So it's led by the evaluator, and you obviously don't have somebody with you there on a daily basis. Observations are limited. The superintendent and the board typically meets once or twice a month. So the evaluation is done as an event in time, or it's compliance-based, which basically carries little meaning. And the methodology is based on the teacher evaluation process, especially for principals. So it doesn't necessarily make any sense. Next slide, please. So we took a look at all the other evaluation tools that were out there, and many or most of them actually were just made for the teacher and really didn't cover the entire leadership team, from the superintendent to the school board to central office administration and principals. And it was missing, they were missing popular evaluation rubrics. So most of them only have one rubric to choose from, which if you don't want to use the rubric, you just can't use their software. And a lot of times they're manual or just hard to use. They have old interfaces. They don't have any of the contemporary features or autosave or really any help. And when you need support, it's typically non-responsive. You may make a phone call and never hear back from anyone, or send an email that is unanswered. Next slide, please. So without super eval or before super eval, the alternatives were continuing to have evaluations done unto you and led by the evaluator and not having any input. Use a methodology designed for another role in education, a teacher, for example, or continue to use a time-consuming paper-based approach, or just decide not to do evaluations, which is obviously not the best decision for professional development. So the questions we were asking were how we could develop a system that would enable you to use the correct methodology, the right evaluation system with leaders, be able to have access to any popular evaluation rubric. And we do have a growing library, which I'll share with you in a minute. We have an easy-to-use software that provides immediate support, and that's why we developed Super Eval. So you can continue to the next slide, see, please. Thank you. The system is the first and only system that was specifically made for the school board, the superintendent, and all other educational leadership positions. We've basically changed the antiquated model. Rather than having the evaluator drive the conversation, the person being evaluated actually gets to lead the evaluation process. And you also get to empower your staff to be reflective. And that way evaluations aren't something you have to do. The way it works is you build your self-assessment. You have a portfolio that you can create throughout the year to show examples of your successes. And then you end up handing over your body of work. And it's all in a digital platform. So the 5 main reasons that our partners considered using Super Eval were that we have the best evaluation methodology, the best coverage of the entire leadership team. We handle all popular rubrics. It's easy, it's automated, and we also have one of the best user support teams. And our system follows the 7 standards of excellence in leadership evaluations, which are establishing a defined process, creating and aligning annual SMART goals, choosing an evaluation instrument with a level performance rubric, employing the reflective practice theory. Sorry, it's late. I'm stumbling on my words. You assemble a professional practices portfolio throughout. You conduct a self-assessment and then engage a year-end review. And I have two different videos that we can watch. The first one is a walkthrough of the platform for the superintendent, and the second one is a walkthrough for the board self-evaluation.
It's still loading. It's just loading. Game time is just loading. It's not going anywhere. It's just
No. Okay, Melissa, it seems that at least the first video, maybe it's just loading in general. Sorry to make you pivot, but could you maybe give some highlights? I can also, so Melissa and I met yesterday, and so I have an understanding of what is included. So if you want me to speak to a little bit of it, I'm happy to, but why don't you start with pulling out some highlights from each of the videos that capture what you wanted?
Okay, so.
Oh, sorry. The second one is up, so we can see the board self-evaluation. Okay, great.
Of course, there's no sound. Hold on. Apologies.
You're awesome, Mr. Dyson. We're happy to wait.
Not getting any sound.
No sound.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not.
Okay, Melissa, we're going back to the first pivot. Could you give a overview of what would be in the videos?
Absolutely. Unless if you want me to try to present and share my screen, I can play the video on my end.
Just click share screen.
You should be able to share. I don't know that it will come up on the big.
I can make it.
Okay.
Oh, I have to do the share audio here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this quickly or not. Let me give it a try. See if it happens. See if it works. Can you see my screen?
Just about. We can on one monitor. He's going to adjust things in just a minute.
Okay, let's see if you can hear. I have no audio.
You have no audio.
I have no audio. I don't know why. I'm going to check my audio.
When you
See.
share, you have to make sure that you're also saying share audio.
Yeah.
It does that. It shows the tab audio, but it just won't play it. Let me check something. Show them what they-
Should I select speakers?
Maybe.
Perhaps.
Give that a try. Interesting. It's not letting me unmute it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Can you hear it?
No.
No,
We can't see anything.
you can't see it or hear it.
We see
No,
the-
we see a login page for Super Eval.
No, that's not what I meant to show. Let's try that again. Video file. Nope.
Well, if you could, I think the processes are the same in terms of how the board or I would access the format, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. So I'm going to try to, I was going to see if maybe I could share my screen and actually log into the platform. Maybe that will work. Okay. And one more time, I'm going to try to share my screen. Are you able to see the dashboard?
Yes.
Let me try the video one more time. Can you hear that?
No.
Okay, I'll just go through the dashboard.
Okay.
So for superintendent evaluation, there are 5 steps. And this is Dr. Brooke Allison. That's actually my daughter's name. It's a fictitious school district here. So the one thing I want to point out is we have help videos on every page. We also have page tours, and we also have user manuals, depending on if you prefer to read or watch a video to learn how to use the system, but it's actually really easy. So going into the platform, we actually have 5 steps for the superintendent self-evaluation. Can you still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. So what you'll be able to do is first go into define your annual goals. And when you define your annual goals, you'll be able to either manually enter the goals or you'll be able to select from examples that we have. And then you'll be able to edit all of your goals. That's done at the beginning of the year, or you can just copy and paste them into the system now. So you can either do a goals-based evaluation, or you could do a competencies-based evaluation, or you could do both. So if you select the competencies here, you can see that you don't have to select every single competency for the evaluation, you can actually pick and choose. So materials and background, for example, policy involvement, through this entire list, you'll be able to select the competencies at the beginning of the year. And then back to the dashboard. Once you've selected your goals, you're able to mark that step complete. Now we do have the ability to give due dates for every step in the process. So there's the goals and competency selection, the superintendent self-evaluation, and steps 1 and 2 are what the superintendent completes. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this step complete. We have kind of a safeguard on every page. So it'll ask you if you're sure you want to complete this step, and you just click yes. And while I'm at it, everything is auto-saved throughout the entire system. So you never have to worry about entering something and losing your work. So throughout the year, this is where the superintendent is able to add supporting evidence and reflections and comments. So if I click the supporting evidence here and click the add button, then I'm able to add any type of document throughout the year, whether it's Word or PowerPoint or PDF. I could also submit a URL. So this is you building your portfolio throughout the year. Any questions so far?
There aren't any.
No, at this time.
And then you're able to put your reflections and comments here. And when you're ready to complete your self-evaluation, you would then go in and rate yourself. And then you'd go on to the next domain. So it's the same for every domain. Going back to the dashboard, once the superintendent completes this, you can submit this to the board to review. Then the board gets a notification that the superintendent's self-evaluation has been completed. So you can also use a mid-year review if you'd like. But once this is submitted to the board, then every board member has an individual roles within the system. And I actually have to log in well, you know what? I'm not going to do that for the sake of time. Every individual board member would have their own. I'm going to go back to stop sharing my screen here. And I have 15 tabs open. I apologize. Okay. I apologize. I was not familiar with StreamYard before today. Can you see my screen or?
We can see you, but we can't see your screen.
I can't see StreamYard anymore.
Do you see the sharing option?
Nope.
Do you, was there information in the slides?
So no, as far as the platform is concerned, I didn't put any of the information in the slides, but
Okay.
I'll just quickly explain the rest of the process. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
So when the trustee receives the notification that the superintendent has completed their evaluation, they're then able to go in and either open that evaluation and make edits to it and then proceed to rate the superintendent, or they can start their own from scratch. And as they're completing the evaluation and utilizing the rubric and submitting their ratings, they can also make comments and add additional evidence at that point. So at the end, when everybody has completed their board self-evaluation, the board president can then mark it complete, and all of the information is consolidated into one main evaluation. So that one main evaluation can then be edited. The board can meet and discuss the evaluation, make edits, and you can actually edit the comments. You can remove individuals' names so that the board can speak as a whole in order to submit that evaluation of the superintendent back to you. And once that process is done, it's all electronically signed, and then you can start on your next year. So the way that the board self-evaluation works, it's just 4 steps rather than 5, and it's a pretty similar process. Basically, everybody does a self-evaluation, and it's all consolidated for you in a digital format at the end. And I'm sure you have a lot of questions because I didn't thoroughly explain it, but I think it's going to be really helpful if you have the video and you kind of.
I can share the presentation with each of you, and then
Okay.
you should be able to click on and watch the videos, and we can follow up. But are there any immediate questions for Melissa?
Hi, Melissa. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
This evening. Good, good. I have a question with regard to how the information is integrated into the software with regards to the board goals, strategic planning, and LCAP. How is that integrated into the system? Is there a model that is used?
So we can use the model that you're currently using, or you can select from the models that we have in the system.
So for example, this is something that Melissa and I discussed yesterday. So so I explained that we've already gone through a process that was recommended by CSBA and have chosen goals for me that are aligned to either board goals, LCAP, or both, or competencies. And where we can still utilize that process is in the optional part of inputting our goals into the format. So the option is that we can customize what the goals are or choose from an already existing rubric. And if we want to continue with the process that we've set forth, would put the goals that have been established already into the format.
So the other board members have any questions with regards to the software? I know it's hard because we didn't really get to see the video. It would have been a great presentation to see that video.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share,
Yeah.
Melissa, with your permission, I'll share your slide deck with the trustees, and then I can follow up with any questions that they may share with me.
That sounds great. I apologize for the technical issues. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for
Thank
your
you.
patience and for staying up with us.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank
Too.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So we'll move on to item 5, human resources. I'll like to hand this off to Superintendent Beal.
Yes, thank you. So we are in the position of having to fill vacancies that have been created by 2 instructional aides who have resigned to take on other positions to further their career. But given the time of year and the fact that we're headed into the portion of the year where we're reassessing what staffing and programming and budgets and everything looks like, the board does have the authority to approve a posting and hiring of a short-term classified paraeducator position, and this is what I'm asking you to consider. Per Ed Code 45103, the governing board at a regularly scheduled board meeting can specify the work to be performed, including the beginning and end date of service, as long as the service does not extend beyond 75% of the school year. And what I would like you to approve is us posting and hiring a paraeducator to start as soon as possible after your approval and would end on the last day of school, June 9th. And the reason why the short term is important is because when you hire for a regular position, there are evaluations, there's the process of tendering somebody, and that is not something we want to do until we've had a full examination of how we want to move forward with staffing and such. So I'm asking for this short-term paraeducator position to be approved so that we can start to fill the vacancy and support the students.
Just a quick question. If we approve and hire on someone and they're a rock star, by coming on a short term, it would not exclude them for if and when we do an evaluation and there ends up being a long-term position opening, they would not be excluded from applying for that.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Does any other board members have any questions with regards to the short-term staffing? No questions? Okay. I'd like to make a motion and vote. I need a second for the approval of the short-term staffing.
Second.
Okay. I motion.
Mhm.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that was unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7, business and fiscal services. Public input on the BTA contract proposal for 22-24 school years. Bayshore Elementary School District is proposing to open negotiations on Article 7, evaluation procedures, Article 9, wages, and Article 19, miscellaneous. Like to open up public hearing at 6:52, and I'd like to hand this over to Superintendent Veal.
I have not been given any public comment for the public hearing. So I think you can close.
Public hearing
Okay.
closed.
You can close the
Okay.
public hearing.
Public hearing is now closed at 6:52. Moving on to item 8, school reports.
Oh, sorry. No, there's
I'm-
another public hearing. So
Okay.
the first one was for
sorry, I
the district
second one
to
for-
propose opening negotiations. The second one
Okay.
is the Bayshore Teachers Association proposing to open negotiations on the same articles. So opening the public hearing.
So I'd like to open a public hearing for the BTA contract proposal, 6:53. And are there any public?
I don't see any.
Okay. Public hearing is now closed at 6:54.
Mhm.
And we'll move to item 8, school reports. I'd like to hand this over to Superintendent Veal.
Thank you. So at one of our last board meetings, there was a request to get an update from Principal Baker on the work that's being done with social emotional learning. Specifically trustees were interested in a student survey that was given out and some of the data from that and how that data is being used. And so I invite Principal Baker to come up to give her a report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stand at the podium there.
Great. Good. Thanks, Marcus. All right. So, greetings, board members. It's really nice to see everyone, especially our new addition, Miss Janelle. It's really nice to see you. So what we have a team at Bayshore that is called the TESOL team. It is the Transformational Social Emotional Learning Team. And it consists of our counseling team, which is Jamie Smith, who is our behaviorist, Ben Bartos, who works with Wellness Together, Mr. Dyson, who is serving as a TOSA part-time this year with one of the many hats he wears, Miss Natalie Rodriguez and Ben Bartos work with Star Vista, myself, and we have some advisory learning folks, which is Miss Bridget and Miss Alyssa, who are present today. And their voices are really important additions to our team. And so the work that we're doing all connects to LCAP goal number 1, provide a healthy and positive school culture where all students experience a supportive learning environment and opportunities that help them learn and thrive in a safe and engaging environment. So what the TESOL team did is we used some data from, you can go to the next slide, from a universal screener. This is our timeline that was implemented to the students through, it's a universal screener through Caring Schools Community, which is a social emotional curriculum that we've adopted. It was made into digital form by Mr. Brian. Oh, I forgot, I didn't actually, you're on the TESOL team. Sorry, Mr. Brian is sitting right here. I am so sorry. So Brian took the universal screener and put it in digital form, and then it was presented to the students. And in the slide deck, this will be shared with you later, that is a link to all of the questions, and you'll be able to see all of the little pie charts of all of the answers. In addition, you can also aggregate the data into a spreadsheet, so you could aggregate it by grade level. You can look at it in those ways as well. But when the TESOL team did this work, we used it to draft a theory of action. We used that in conjunction with some empathy interviews that we did with our staff. We used those two things to present the theory of action to our staff, get feedback from them, and now at the to be determined, we will have our final revision of the theory of action to be approved by the staff after receiving the feedback. So I'll go into some detail about these things, but this is the general timeline. So that will be at our at a staff meeting. You know, the next slide. So a theory of action is something that we have developed with both math and language arts. And so now with our social emotional learning and our community. And a theory of action is something that is developed that everyone can go back to and refer to. The process that we went through is something that is really helpful because it's not just leadership creating it. It's the TESOL team using their expertise to comb through some data and then present the data to the staff, and then allow space for them to give us feedback on that data, go back to the draft, make some revisions so that we're all on the same page. So that's what a theory of action is. So this is now the third time we've gone through this process as a school community. So you can go to the next slide. So this is the universal screener data that we really honed in on because it was really interesting to see this pattern, both with this slide really exemplifies it, where we just had a lot of, you can see it was over half the students who were surveyed felt that their classmates did not, they were either indifferent or they did not feel that their classmates cared about them. And so this really struck us that if you go to the next slide, you can see that they care. You know, there was sort of this, I care about my classmates, but I don't feel that they care about me. And this really spoke to the need for a consistent, you know, across the school manner in which we can engage the students in having empathy for one another, expressing empathy for one another, understanding difference, and embracing difference. And that was sort of what we focused on with the universal screener data as far as developing this theory of action. You can go to the next slide. So then these were the empathy interview questions that were asked of the staff. And again, this was a process that was gone through with math and ELA. And they're color coded very specifically. The green questions were aspirational questions, what we want for our students, what we want for our community. The blue were actions that we need to take, and then the pink were areas that we wanted to improve upon. So the TESOL team went out and interviewed. We split up. We interviewed the whole staff, classified and certificated, and we landed on that. And then go to the next slide. This actually highlights some of the things that we found. So Brian, Jamie, Marcus, and I were the ones who did the empathy interviews. We were the folks on the TESOL team who had the capacity to do that because of our schedules. And these were the things that really stood out for us. Relationships came up again and again, collaboration, self-advocacy of our students, connecting with peers and adults, and student voice. So those were all the things that really just kept surfacing again and again. So then from there, you can go to the next slide, we developed this theory of action, which we presented to the staff in our day-long professional learning on January 24th. Was that
I think.
23rd was the Monday. And so we presented the theory of action, and then we also, Caring Schools Community did a whole workshop with the staff. That was really great. So we presented this to them, and then the next slide, we presented them with this, which we also did with math and language arts. There was an incredible amount of really constructive and very, very heartfelt feedback from the staff around this. And it was just very, very obvious that our community and our staff care so very deeply about the social emotional wellness of our students. So the main takeaways were, so then what the TESOL team did is anybody who had put a sideways thumb or a downwards thumb and put their name on it, indicating that they wanted to be followed up with, was followed up with and either met with or had the opportunity to be met with. And so now we're in the process of taking all of that data to edit our theory of action, which we will then present to the staff in its final form. And then we'll have that. So we'll have ELA, we'll have math, and then we'll have social emotional learning. The things that came up, just themes that came up from staff as far as the thumbs down or the thumbs sideways were really, there were the main themes were accountability, more specificity in the theory of action, just very specific ways that we were going to do the things we said we were going to do. There was an ask that we really see things through a very intentional anti-racist lens, and just super powerful, super thoughtful. And the hope is that when we come back to the staff with this, that it feels rich and right, and that this is what we want to keep coming back to. So the next slide is, we're in the process of this. So this is a process. It's a lot, and we're taking it very seriously. So Jamie and I have been going through this and just noting the themes that were coming up and adding some things. And again, I think we still need to, it's a work in progress, but I thought it might be interesting for you to see kind of what our process was as we're working through it. So this all will be shared with you. If you look at it and you have any questions, I guess this would be a good time to stop and just see if there's any particular questions that are surfacing. Yes.
Of the 221 responses, what grades are those from?
So kinder, there was a technical problem with kinder and first. So their data was not included in this, but we're going to try and revisit that. There's one, do you want to speak to that a little bit? The one for families too?
Once we get approval from leadership, there's a.
Excuse me, if Patel can come to the mic, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello. There's a questionnaire specifically for teachers, a questionnaire specifically for instructional aides, because the questions cater towards what each role is. And there's also a family questionnaire. And once Ms. Baker gives us the go ahead, we will they're already digitized, but how we would send it and roll it out will be our next step, and the when, not if.
And it's going to be comprehensive, so everyone gets it.
Yeah.
And in all languages?
It was because we have digitized it, we can put it in all languages. Yeah. Any other questions?
What's the handoff between staff as in teachers and staff as in the folks that you named at the very beginning, the counselors, whether it's Star Vista or Mr. Patel or
The
is there a handoff in here? I mean, I'm trying, it's a lot of information, so
I
I'm
know.
trying to digest
It
it,
is,
but I'm just
yeah.
curious as to how this is supposed to flow.
So this is really where our focus is. So for example, right now we're doing these Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles with math and ELA. And so when we do those cycles, we look at our standards and we look at this document for those two subject areas. And when you are developing what you're going to plan to work on, you need to choose something in here. So you're saying, I'm connecting it to something that we want for our students in addition to what my standard is that I'm working towards. And so to that end, this would be similar, where the work that we're doing with Caring Schools Communities, with circles and with these other proactive things, as well as our discipline plan, that things would go back and connect to this. And what we really realized was that so many of the things in this particular theory of action that we want for our students to be learning is what we want them to leave us with. So it's almost like, you know, they're working on these things now so that they're leaving us with mastery of those skills.
And I'm just asking because I don't know, is this used to determine what tier each student would fall into, whether they're tier 1, tier 2? Or is that before this, or is it after this?
No,
or?
well, I think so. With when we're talking about the tiers, that's more like the needs of the students. So this would all be considered tier 1. We're expecting all of our kids to do all of these things. So we might have kids who need more supports, tier 2 supports, in order to meet these expectations.
Okay. That's what my first
Yeah.
question was. I was
Yes.
trying to figure out what the handoff was between tier 1 and tier 2.
And then, you know, again, with tier 3, so that would be like many adults really wrapping around fewer children. Those would be the kids who need a lot of scaffolding to meet these expectations. And so that would come through TESOL work, the TESOL team working with students on an individual basis, with them doing any kind of supports, like Jamie goes into classrooms, pushes into classrooms and helps with things, you know, just if teachers need support with these things. And this is still a work in progress. So, yes.
Can you take me through how the circles take place with the staff and what supports that we provide for the teachers during the circle?
The circles that the staff does with students?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a perfect segue to the next slide.
Wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get back to you.
So what will happen to students that will never be able to accomplish this? What's the next plan for those children? I guess it goes back to your question on the tiers. And how long are those students are supposed to be there? What's the measure? What's the timeline? Because every child is different. Not everybody's going to reach that when they get to 8th grade. And I guess this is only pertaining to the students who need this help. So what do we do?
Well, that's a really good question. I think that, you know, if you look at what we're expecting of our kids to be able to, you know, build meaningful relationships with peers and adults. I mean, if we have kids who are leaving us and they're not able to do those things, you know, these are our goals. These are our expectations. This is what we're saying. This is what we value in our community. And so, you know, if we have students that really need those bigger scaffolds in order to, you know, be able to problem solve constructively, or, you know, self-advocate, or, you know, model, practice, and express anti-racist values. Like, those are the things that, you know, as we're learning in this learning community, as we're seeing the places where we really have to dive a little deeper to support students in a bigger way, I mean, I think that's where we sort of pivot as a school community to support those kids. But just like with our standards, like with the academic standards, there's going to be kids who need a lot more scaffolding than other kids for a variety of reasons. And so, it's thinking about, how am I making this accessible to all of the students? Am I considering language barriers? Am I considering, cultural relevancy? Am I thinking about identity in the different ways that kids are operating at home when doing this kind of work?
So these are our expectations for the children, for the students. I think we're missing what the expectation from the students for the adults, for the staff.
So this going back to this section, this is the expectation for what the staff is doing to support the kids to do these things. And then these are the things that the administrators as well as the TESOL team are doing in order to support the teachers to do these things in order to support the students. So like a lot of that feedback was around accountability, like how are we making sure that I'm held accountable to, supporting the teachers, that the teachers are held accountable for supporting the students. That was like one of the big themes that came up that we're addressing as we're editing this. And it's been really interesting to see how this works with our academic instruction, because once you have had that process of buy-in from the staff, from the teaching community, it's been really powerful to then go back and revisit this document with those as we're thinking about how we're serving our students' needs with academics. So, and the hope is that the proactive work, that sort of tier 1 support that we're providing with our students through the Caring Schools community curriculum, is going to provide that like consistency and accountability and across grade levels.
We should definitely post this in our website then, because it looks good on paper, but then the actual work is actually doing it and seeing the impact.
I agree. And just like I say to the kids a lot of the time, it's just words unless it's actually happening, unless there's action behind it. So I think I agree with you. Once it's done, it would be something, to consider of all of those, but with academics as well being pushed out. And also, one of the things that Caring Schools communities does with their curriculum is they have a lot that they push out to families, so that you're not just saying school is here and family is here. There's a lot of activities that kids bring home. And so once we had our professional learning with the Caring Schools folks who came and did this professional development, one of my questions to the teachers was, okay, so we are really going full on in this in the fall. What do you feel you have the capacity, and what is the need for our students to use this curriculum right now? And so most of the teachers are doing the homeschool connection work, so that they're starting to engage with that and see how the families respond to that. There's been exploration with buddy classes, and there's a buddy curriculum where you cross grade level curriculum. Some of the teachers are starting to do circles using the curriculum. So there's sort of a wading into the curriculum and seeing how it feels, so that once we go full in the fall, there's some experience with that. And they're really responsive. They really, they have coaching opportunities. They have a lot of scaffolds for adults too, who are using that curriculum. Do you have a question?
So there is a similar process for families to use.
Well, I think what I hear Teresa saying is that for families to be aware that this is our expectation, and that this is what the adults are expected to do too.
The adult staff.
Adult staff, yes.
But is there a component for the adult families?
With this,
Yes.
or with That's an interesting question. I think that's something worth exploring for sure.
Because
I
if we're
think
going to do the survey, we're doing the
With the
same type of
families.
survey with the families. It would be great to follow up with, hey, by the way.
the Caring Schools curriculum, like when we were, initially looking at it, it really aligns a lot with our values as a school, as a community. And so to have that opportunity to push, to just create some inner engagement between what we're doing as a school and not keep this so separate from what families are doing, I thought was really powerful also for the kids, because, some of it is, going home and saying and asking questions of their family, like, how are you disciplined when you were a kid? Or what were some experiences that you had in school where you were, were you bullied, or were you, just really surfacing those, creating structured opportunities for kids to engage with families around social emotional learning too.
Do we know if any of our partner high schools are engaged in any of this? Because to Teresa's point, she's saying students may or may not master.
I think, well, with the theory of action work, I would have to do some investigating to know like who's actually doing that. But with Caring Schools, I can find out from them.
It'd just be great for the children to know what, if they're working on that and they're familiar with it, to know, hey, reach out to these people at your high school, especially if they are not, necessarily
And
tier
this,
one.
yeah, and this is separate from, so the Caring Schools curriculum, it dovetails really nicely with this. But it's like this is really catered to us. Like we have determined this, and it's very much in alignment with what the Caring Schools curriculum is doing as far as like proactively setting up circles and, having conversations about empathy and bullying and friendship and all sorts of topics. So, and just having there be a routine that's consistent across grade levels. So then the next step after we present the theory of action to the staff in its final form is, to continue using Caring Schools as a resource and to kind of I'm following up with teachers to see like how it's going, what they're using, what they have questions about. And we are also going to hopefully be rolling out a discipline plan, because one of the asks from our staff and really from our bigger community has been like, what are, if yes, PBIS, yes, we want all of our kids to be supported to do what's right. And we also need to make it clear to all of our staff, all of our children and our families, what the consequences are for certain behaviors when they are, to Teresa's point, not meeting these expectations. And so that is the next step after this, but it's going to take some time for us to be ready for that.
So, is it possible for any group of children to master all those bullets by 8th grade?
We'll find out. I mean, I think
I'll buy them pizza.
You'll buy them pizza? Okay. I'm going to hold you. I look at our 8th graders right now. I think we have a lot of kids who are doing a lot of these things. And I think a lot of that is thanks to our teaching staff and our instructional aides who really put a lot of care and love into supporting those students and holding them accountable to their actions.
Kudos to the teachers.
Yes, kudos to the teachers. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
We're going to move to the SEL.
That was, well, you can go to the next slide. We kind of talked about, this was just the final slide of, this is just a picture of their curriculum. So the circles that the teachers are doing, the proactive circles that they're doing. This is Caring School Community Curriculum. This is what all of our teachers have. Brian has been working with them to help teachers understand how the portal works. There's a lot of access online, and so those are the next steps that we have.
And that's for all grades.
That's for all grades. That's K through 8. So our teachers all do circles in their classroom as it stands, but they are not consistent with how they are running circles. And so this is going to provide that accountability and consistency amongst, across grade level.
Any other board members have any other questions?
All right.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
presentation. Item 9, superintendent reports. I'd like to hand this over to Superintendent Beal.
Thank you. So our first item under my report section is the Culture and Climate Subcommittee Survey Update. I want to open the floor to trustees Rudolph and Avalana to share any initial thoughts about our discussions thus far and how we've decided to move forward. And then I will transition that into the superintendent update.
Okay. So this is ongoing. So just to set the scope, this is a supplemental update. And so what I was starting with and out of subcommittee, so this is actually the first time the full board is hearing this information. Just ran some of the numbers. So first I want to thank the staff that took the survey. In the spring of 2020, we had 43 staff members respond. In the fall of 2022, in the fall of 2022, this last one, we had 38. So there was a reduction of about 11% in responses. But thank you for those that did, because I was able to take at least the 13 items that were on both surveys and do a numeric comparison. So again, this is high level overview. This is not necessarily going to solve any problems, but it's going to at least identify points. So out of the 13, we had the same score, averaging score on 5 of the questions. We had a reduction in score on 6 of the questions, and 2 of the questions we had an increase in the score. So obviously the subcommittee is going to work more, especially on the ones that went down. And obviously, to my personal, as an individual board member, if it stayed the same, I would say that we also take time to look at that as well. And then, as always, we should always celebrate things. So the ones that we improved on, speak to those as well. Overall, the average scores were pretty much right in the middle. And like I said, when I did a comparison, the largest change was an 8% improvement on one of them, upwards. The ones that went down, nothing was below that. So that's good news. But I would just say that the subcommittee has additional work to do. We're going to obviously correlate this in response to the texts that people took their time and submitted. And I also want to take time to thank those that did. There were many, many responses that were very meaningful, and they were read. So just want to make sure everyone understands we are looking at every response, not only the scores, but the text responses as well. So that is kind of the quick level overview.
Great, thank you, Dave. Yeah, I just want to acknowledge all the staff, with regards to the culture and climate. It's very important that we acknowledge and hear what everyone is saying. And it's important that we help understand what is going on in our school district, because it's important. It's important for our students, ultimately. But again, we want to make sure that our staff is also supported as well. And that's what we as a board are working with our superintendent to make those things and bridge the gap, so we can increase that climate and shift that culture. So it's very important. Again, like Mr. Rudolph said, there's still work that we're going to continue to do. And it just, again, this is preliminary, and we'll have more to present, but I want to hand this over to Superintendent Beal, who can give a presentation on it.
Oh, by the way, so we were going to, the deal was if we received 100% back of the survey of participants, the board we will be in that kitchen slaving, cooking for the staff all day that day, the 23rd.
So next
So-
time.
So unfortunately, that 100 didn't, hit. So we didn't do it because that's what we were planning to do. But I would like to hear that question if it's okay. The question that we have the increase on.
Yeah,
If that's
there's
okay.
two that went up.
Oh, can I
But
hear
the
that
largest
question?
the one that went up the most was, I feel comfortable going to the administration with a concern.
Hmm.
That went up by 8%.
Nice to hear. And then the next one.
And then the other one that went up was, I feel a sense of belonging at Bayshore. And that went up by 5%.
Going somewhere. Thank you.
Okay. So I want to recognize that we have a full house here. I appreciate the public. Usually it's just Mr. Patel and Ms. Legospie. So we have a nice group, and I understand that we might also have a larger group tuning in streaming. So thank you everyone for making the time. And I also want to appreciate the fact that this update is going to be centered around me. Normally, my updates are more school focused. And while this is school focused, I am taking the opportunity during this meeting to provide an update that I had intended on providing to the staff during the January 23rd professional development. So some of what I'm going to provide had initially the audience was staff, and so there's going to be information here that will resonate a lot for the staff. Some maybe more than others, depending on how you see things here. But what I really hope overall is that this update will provide a starting point to communication and improving how we're moving forward in supporting students and working together. So Mr. Dyson is going to be my slide advancer. And so the objective of this is to really share my insights. Since starting here July 1, I've been able to interact with many people, get a sense of what's going on. And really, I want to take this time to be able to share what I see being some of our needs and what I intend to do moving forward to help to reset some of our work towards alignment and purposeful progress. So in this update, you're going to hear my thoughts about the strengths that I've observed here in our district and the challenges that I see facing our work together. I'll also provide a very specific insight into the questions that pertain to superintendent on the cultural and climate survey. And from my interactions and observations, I do see the need to clarify roles and responsibilities. And so I'm going to provide a little bit about that. And then also just providing a very high level of what we can expect my focus to be, both forward facing and behind the scenes, to hopefully address some of the needs that I'll bring up. Okay. So I wanted to just highlight that my sources, I didn't just create from nothing the things that I'm going to be sharing. The content or data sources, if you will, have come from one-to-one meetings with several stakeholders, whether they were concerns or personal stories shared, brought to my attention, connections that I've made or meetings that I've had with our school teams, from office staff, kitchen staff, union leadership, academic leadership that we have here, or just people who are on the front lines, if you will, of supporting academic development, and those staff members who are focused on the mental health of our students. So I feel like I've had the opportunity to have many touch points. I've also, as I have been attending county and city events, been able to talk with people from our community about perceptions. One of the best opportunities I've had to get an understanding of our community from community members and city leaders was our block party, which was amazing, but also making connections with sister districts, if you will. So Jefferson Elementary School District, Jefferson Union High School District, teachers and staff and parents in those districts, from those districts as well. So so it's been very enlightening to get different perspectives. The survey was also very helpful, not only the ones that that we talked a little bit about this morning, or excuse me, this evening, from our students, their perspectives, but also data that I've been made aware of that the TESOL team has been talking about since the beginning of the school year, and then also the culture and climate survey. And then just my general observations. I think it's a strength of mine to be observant and to notice said and unsaid interactions. And so that was all what was used to inform my understanding up to this point. So observe strengths, and these are really something that I celebrate and makes me happy to come to work every day. We have incredible staff members. We have staff members who are committed to serving our students and our community. Some things that I want to lift up and really appreciate is we have some great senses of humor on our staff. People love to laugh, and I think that's an important aspect of being able to work with people and share our stories, to be able to share laughs. Everyone that I've connected with has shown me an aspect of their heart where they're caring and wanting to be helpful. People are very passionate about serving students and being able to serve students. The curiosity I see amongst our staff members is something that I respect. And this aspect of being a team player. I started our start of school PD saying that my goal is that together everyone achieves more, that we're a team, and each of those words represent together everyone achieves more, and being able to work together, have people's backs, being able to see where help is needed, offer that help, provide that help, is really something I've also seen and appreciated from staff here. So those are observed, just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight about our staff here. Most importantly, next slide is our students. Our students are, I smile because they bring me joy. We have students who want to learn. That's not everyone can say that at a school. It's sad, but all of our students want to learn. All of our students want to be successful. They want to make adults feel like they are working for them and for their appreciation. They want to know that the adults here care. And they really want to have friends. Many of the conflicts that I hear Ms. Baker problem solving or the TESOL team discussing are centered around some of the data that Ms. Baker shared. They want to care for others and they want to feel cared for. And that's at the basis of friendship. And so I think these are very important strengths that we recognize and that I continue to hold at the forefront of my mind as I'm making decisions as I'm having conversations. So I just wanted to share those points because the next slides talk about the challenges, and these are very serious challenges that I see and that I am committed to addressing. The first one is that we have a significant absence of consistent systems and structures here. And these observed challenges are not to assign blame to anyone. It is just to recognize, because the first step in making change is recognizing what needs to be changed. And so that's a big one. needing more consistency with systems and structures. There is a lack of alignment between board, district, school, and student goals. And that is part of what many of our discussions as a board have been centered around this year. There's an underlying current that lacks confidence in leadership, and that's huge. That's very huge. Because if we don't have confidence in leadership, or if we don't have confidence in teachers, if we don't have confidence in our students, then that impacts the decisions and our actions and the behaviors. This next one, blurred lines of our positionality as adults, is something that is actually quite a trigger for me. There's this sense, and I've seen it observed in staff, that from the caring, from the desire, from the passion to serve our students, there is a blurred line that exists for some of our adults here. You could be a trusted adult, you can care for a student, but you should not be their friend. There's an important distinction. When someone is a friend, they are a peer. You share information with students that they are developmentally not able to process, to understand. Adult business becomes child business, and that is an impact and a burden on children. And I've seen it too often here at this school. So that is something that we will change. There is weak consistency with system-wide data collection, analysis, and accountability of practice. I know the desire is there. I've had one-on-one conversations. I've had small group conversations with practitioners here that yearn for data-informed conversations. And I think our PDSA cycles are a very good step in the right direction, but there's way more work to be done. And that's also something we've discussed as a board. This next one, high numbers of absences. Yes, we're recovering from a pandemic. Yes, we have RSV, we have COVID, we have the flu, we have tons of things. And this is actually something that piggybacks on the teamwork that I brought up as a strength. I am astounded at the number of absences we have of a staff. And there, for whatever reason, and I'm not passing judgment, what is really amazing to me, though, is how we have each other's backs, how we, the people who are here, stop and pivot and cover so that we can maintain classrooms and don't have to mix classrooms, so that we can make sure that the services are still being provided to our students. That is an incredible gift of our staff members. But I don't understand why we're having so many absences. It's an impact. It's an impact. Our reading support has been incredibly impacted. Our support of our special education students have been incredibly impacted by frequent absences. So that's something I want to dive into a little bit more. Weakened compliance practices because the focus shifts too often. At the beginning of my time here, I was shared, I got a BTA presentation, and the term used was whack-a-mole. And there is whack-a-mole for sure going on here. And it's exhausting, it's frustrating, and it leads to the lack of consistency with systems and structures. There's some really incredible work here going on, really incredible. Theories of action are important. Getting everybody on the same page is important. But when you have too many shifts and too many focuses and too many grants that are doing and pulling people in too many directions, that's exhaustion. And that gets back to the alignment between what you as a board have as priorities, what we as a district and school dedicate and focus ourselves to working together to achieve. That's what we need to do. And that's what we're going to start to do more of. I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm saying we need more direction. And then there's this bottom reality, the frustration that comes, and I hear and feel the frustration. I hear about the low morale. I hear about the questions as to whether or not, people want to show up. It came up on the Culture and Climate Survey. There's this urgency for change. And sometimes that urgency masks the fact that where we sit right now has been because of years, if not decades, of choices. And so that urgency, yes, we need to keep it. We need to have agency for change, but we have to realize that change happens over time. And that's where we need alignment. We need to be consistent, and we need to hold ourselves and each other accountable. And so those are some of the challenges that I've observed and intend to work with our staff to shift, to change. Some of the things that were really resonant for me were the 2 questions in the Culture and Climate Survey about me. So the first one, the superintendent takes a genuine interest in the well-being of safety and staff. One of the continual comments in the comment sections throughout the survey was the difficulty in answering the survey because of the different ways that questions can be interpreted. And that is something we've talked about as a subcommittee, and that's something we do intend to address. But if I'm taking this data for face value, it looks like a majority of the people feel like I do take a genuine interest, however they define that. So on one hand, it's very positive that a majority of the people who responded feel that I have conveyed in some manner that I care. And that is very important. There are, though, 5 people who filled out this survey who don't feel like I care. And so that's something I need to reflect about. The frustration about the survey is that it's anonymous. So I hope that the people who feel that I don't care will somehow share why they feel that way, because I can't learn from a mistake that I may have made. But that's the individual choice. Of those responses, the text responses that Trustee Rudolph shared, 17 people made comments. Overall, the 5 comments were either focused on or included wanting the superintendent to be in classrooms more. And I could not agree more. That is it's actually an area of weakness of mine. It was an area of weakness of mine to a certain extent as a principal, and it has been a big area of weakness of mine this year. I have not been in classrooms nearly as much as I want to be. And that is something that I've talked to our board about changing. 5 stated that they needed more time so they could weigh in on this question. And I appreciated that because I've not been here very long, right? So that's honest. I appreciated that. 1 stated that they wanted more updates from me, and that is related to me. The way I interpret that is communication. And that is an area that has been identified as a weakness. And so I appreciated that. 3 stated, so far, so good. All right. So far, so good. 3 made comments like, love her, very approachable, productive, very good. So I really, really appreciate the comments. 1 made a comment about addressing negative teacher behavior, and 1 asked that there be more clarity around exactly what the question is asking. So all of this is important input, and I appreciate it. And you'll hear later in this presentation how I will begin to address some of these. This was the next question specific to my actions. I feel comfortable going to the superintendent. Again, we have a majority of the responses being in the neutral or strongly agree area. And then we do have 3 people that don't feel comfortable coming to me with a concern. So I do hope that people who are not comfortable can go to someone who can convey to me what their concerns are. But it's bothersome. I don't like that there are people that feel they can't come to me with a concern. So that's an area that I need to think more about to be more approachable. Of the 6 people who made comments, 5 were positive in terms of sharing that they feel like they can come and talk to me. But there is a disconnect to opportunities to build relationships. And I think that speaks to not only some of the challenges that I've highlighted, but also the special reality that we have here at Bayshore, and the fact that we are one school, we're a small community, and the superintendent's right here. That comes with great opportunities, and then that comes with some blurred understanding as to roles and things, which leads into that second bullet, needing clarity between the role of the principal and the role of the superintendent. I did have a great conversation with 2 staff members who helped me realize that there is perhaps for some an unclear understanding about what do I do as a superintendent, what are my responsibilities, and how is that different from what the principal does and the board does, etc. So I'm going to try and answer that a little bit. And then one mentioned that they felt uncomfortable because they feel that things are looked at subjectively, not objectively, and that there was a fear of retaliation due to misinformation circulating. So I do hope that person comes and talks to me because that's harsh feedback and important feedback for me to know. So I share this next slide for roles and responsibilities just as a way to help to bring some clarity. So this is an old organization chart of Menlo Park City School District, and not many districts have an org chart. But I chose this one because it existed, and one because it's also a K-8 school. And in high school districts, you're gonna have lots of other positions. But this is a school district of a small to medium size. So in the range of sizes of school district, we are said that we're small, but we're actually quite tiny. But in a medium-sized school district where it's K-8, such as Menlo Park, where you have 4 schools, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you have the Board of Education, and their one employee is the superintendent. So they hire and fire superintendents. They support the superintendent to do work as related to priorities and goals. And then we have all those other squares. And I put this as an example because you'll see that in many districts, you might have a director of human resources, you might have a manager of HR, you might have a public information officer, you might have a CBO, you might have an executive director of student services, you might have a head of facilities, you might have lots of people in what would call a cabinet. And all of those people have responsibilities that you'll see with other people who they support and who report to those people. And then you have a layer of principals of school administration, and those principals are responsible for staff. So here at Bayshore, we are held responsible for all of those things that you see on that chart, but only one person does that, and that's me. So accountability, testing, facilities, SPED, human resources, those are all things that still have to happen, that the state makes a school district do, and you have to account for those things. And that is my responsibility. I also have the responsibility to support the principal, who is then supporting the staff, who ultimately, and if I were to do an org chart, I would put the students at the top because we're all here for the students. But my point in saying this is because in one of my conversations with staff, it was, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? And that X, Y, and Z was what a principal does. And I think it's important to separate this distinction of what a superintendent does and what a principal does, because if you blur the lines, you start to get into not knowing how to hold who accountable for what, and who to go to for help, and who helps who. And those blurred lines exist. However, because we are at a small district, it's okay to blur the lines in some ways. And we should take advantage of those opportunities that exist to blur the lines. And I just share that because our next steps are going to be crucial in knowing how we're going to work together to solve some of those challenges that I highlighted a little earlier. So what's next? What's next for me and what I'll be leading, but you're going to see some blur because there's also Principal Baker who's going to be leading some of these things. Leadership team is going to be leading some things. All of us are taking part in the responsibility of these next steps. But starting to build alignment starts with the strategic planning. So board priorities was already a discussion that we had in February. We're going to follow up with a conversation with staff in March. And then from those conversations, we will move into setting the foundation of our focus over the next 3 years. And it's going to include our theories of action. It's going to include all of the grant work that we are being awarded and the focus that we want. But it's going to be... I'm still not sure about that. I know, Siri. Oh, we're not sure about it either yet, but we're going to get there. But it's going to include a very focused and concerted effort moving forward. And it's going to take all of us. My goals, I think, are a good step towards that direction. The way that we created my goals to focus on MTSS restructuring, SEL practices, ELD instruction, communicating and parent inclusion, and special education are starting to put some of those structures and processes in place to address some of the things. That will also lead into some of the restructuring for our LCAP. The LCAP is a local plan, a district plan that spans over the course of 3 years. This next year, 23-24, is the last year of our LCAP. So the goals won't change, but we can adjust some of the focus to be a little bit more intentional and reflect some of the goal work that I've highlighted there. And then we're headed into that time of year where we're talking about negotiations and staffing, and that's going to have a big effect or impact on how we're shaping the framing of the work and what's possible in terms of who's here and how we're showing up. So I look forward to that. To continue specifically what I have set as goals of what you will see from me moving forward, the front facing to address the communication and wanting to hear more from me, I will start newsletters to the staff. I've been doing since the start of my time here a weekly letter to the board that has been very well received. And I hear that this is a good practice to have with the staff, and so I'll be starting that in March. I have already talked with with our PTO leadership about adding a parent education component to our PTO meetings that are happening for the rest of this year. And those, the content for those parts will be generated from ideas obtained from parents about what they would like to do. I look forward to doing more work with our leadership team. And I'm making it a goal to be visiting classrooms monthly. So I will get into classrooms throughout the month moving forward. Behind the scenes work that is all making these intents and goals possible I have ongoing conversations with my former colleagues at the county office to align some supports for our school related, to the grants that we've received or that we are applying for. Accountability and assessment, their team at the county office. I'm asking for some wraparound services to help us boost our work in this area. And then instruction, we are in desperate need of having conversations around English language arts practices aligned to new resources that hopefully we're going to be having. We're starting more work with the ELD team at the county office, and we have been very fortunate to already have a collaboration with the math team at the county office. And then you're going to be seeing more coming from addressing compliance and starting to build some structures and systems that are needed in various areas. So that's a lot, and it's a lot and a little at the same time. It's an overview, but I hope it's the start of ongoing conversations that we'll be having as a staff to make sure that we all want to show up and we all want to be here and continue to support our students. Any questions or thoughts?
Board members have any questions? Start at the end.
To be me.
Trustee Falcoa.
But no, I mean, it's interesting to see some of the things or some of the areas that the Superintendent Veal has already observed. And it's just not surprising, but it's good to know that it's in aligning with everything that we're trying to do. So I'm looking forward to see the outcome or to see the follow-up on some of these areas. So thank you.
Trustee,
Yeah, not necessarily a question, but more of a suggestion on, I really appreciate you putting in the monthly visits to the classroom. I might also suggest time outside on the yard, especially with related to like SEL and stuff, because my observations is a lot of things happen on the yard. It's a different dynamic, but it's a dynamic that happens. So just to get that visibility as well might be worthwhile. And I did have one other thing, but I apologize. If I think of it, I'll chime back in.
Trustee Cavanero? Okay. I'll just say thank you for your presentation and being transparent with regards to a lot of things that were said. Beginning of this school year, coming from summer vacation, me as a board member individually have made a commitment and a dedication to this district to get from where we are and to see the success of all our students. And I see that, all of us see that here. And I'm sure out there, they hear that. And what it takes is dedication, commitment, and the drive to do this. And we all have to work together. And like you said in the beginning, team. Together, everyone achieves more. And that's what teams are built on success. Again, we as a board, I made the commitment to holding ourselves accountable. Superintendent Veal, who is our only employee, we hold her accountable, and it just trickles down from that point, and making sure that we achieve and we support our staff and our students at the highest levels. It's going to take time. Not going to be an overnight fix, but it will take time. So I'm reaching out to our district, to our staff, to understand and be patient through this process as we learn from, again, years and years and layers upon layers, and how I recall sitting in a room and being presented the iceberg model. I can only see what's on the surface, right? And below that, an entanglement of many, many years. And that's what we're trying to do, and it's going to take time. Again, I'm very thankful for your presentation and clarifying a lot of details of what we are doing in this district and where we're going to head. And it takes everyone to make that impact at every level. So thank you.
So
I'm
sorry,
There was a
one more item.
Yeah.
So just this last item is that, so our work with Dr. Smith is to be continued, and he has offered the date of April 20th from 4:30 to 8 p.m. to follow up on that priorities conversation that was started on February 2nd. So I'm wondering if your calendars allow that to happen. He didn't think that the work would go all the way till 8 o'clock, but wanted to reserve that time. April 20th, yes.
And that's from 4 to 8.
4:30 to 8, and we'll have dinner provided. I'm assuming you have dinner provided. No better.
Huh?
No better.
At this current time, I am available if you want to ask or the colleagues.
I'm available.
Okay.
I'm available.
Yeah, it's in my calendar.
So we would
Great.
just have to.
I'll
contact
confirm that with him. Mhm.
Trustee Brown.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I will ask her.
So far, that date does work well. And,
Okay.
Pending Ms. Brown if she's available.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will try and confirm that with her tomorrow, and I'll send out an email. And that was the last of my updates.
Okay, we'll move to item 10, board member reports. Any board members have anything they'd like to report out?
Well, I don't have anything to report out, but I was listening to Ms. Seville's presentation. And then it brings to my attention, brings to mind that maybe we need to suggest to have that organization chart posted. We need to create one. And then, post it somewhere. We have so many. We have the website, we have our Bayshore TV. We even have a foil that is empty that I would like my picture in there.
We are working on
For the
that.
board members and maybe staff. Our parents need to come see who are caring for their children, and I know that some staff will be opted from it, but that's fine, but we need to have that chart posted and organize it and have it, visually for everybody, for the community. Also, I looked up on our Bayshore website, other schools, they posted the policies, the parents' rights, the children's rights, personal rights. There's nothing over there on that Bayshore TV. I would like to see that. If I was a parent looking up under behavior, policies. Now a lot of schools, everything is accessible online, but we don't have that.
May I comment?
Sure.
Excuse me. Website redesign is on my to-do list as well.
Thank you.
And Mr. Dyson said at one point that he would like to help me with that. But in all honesty, I am waiting until the summer to really do a big overhaul on the website. It's a huge task.
Sounds good.
So
And then our basketball teams are doing awesome. Um, I know I appreciate Mr. Dyson because you're not even you're sitting here and then you're over there recording our children to be on YouTube. So thank you for doing that. I hope the district is paying you for that, or some incentive for your Saturdays to be out there. So Ms. V will probably work on it. So, but if you have a chance, come visit. Our teams are playing really good, really, really good. That's it. Thank you for the staff. Thank you so much for everything, staff. Appreciate it.
I'll try and keep it short. Again, I can't reiterate enough the appreciation that we, the board, have for the staff here. And as I mentioned in the culture climate survey, we are taking your feedback very seriously. And that's why change may seem slow, but we're trying to make sure that it is the right change in the right way and be very tactical about it. And so, yeah, I do apologize for it sometimes, because I know that I've received feedback of like, well, we took the survey last year and nothing happened. It's like that we are working on, under the hood, so to speak. As Ms. Veal's presentation identified, there's definitely a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of good things. I do want to comment. It's like, as far as like Ms. Veal pointed it out great. It's like this staff has the amazing ability to pivot. And there's been times I've walked in and I've seen the number of absentees and don't know how you guys do it. So it is amazing what you guys pull together on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for doing that.
I apologize for just switching the conversation. I don't have any reports, but I just wanted to note that I did attend the new school board member orientation at the Jefferson Union High School District on January 21st. And some of the questions that I did have was answered through our one-on-one meeting and the meeting last week. And I'm just looking forward and working on the next training.
One of the first things I want to mention tonight, I just want to thank our community and our staff here for supporting one of our family and our students here for an incident that happened last month. But the outpour of support that came through that just showed how resilient we are in this community. I know PTO got involved to raise funds for the family who went through some, through a very moving situation. Anyone who has their house caught on fire, I can't imagine. But again, it's the support of the Bayshore of coming together and making this family feel supported was important to hear. It's important to see as information came through. And I appreciate everyone's efforts. On another note, I spoke to some colleagues in the Jefferson Elementary School District, and our hearts go out to a student who recently passed. I want to take this opportunity to focus on us as a community and bring some awareness to what's going on in our community, our surrounding communities, especially with our students. Sometimes checking in with them each day is important to kind of get an understanding of what they're going through. And having these check-ins is very important. But I think that is something that we can focus on in raising awareness on many different levels. So again, condolences to the family in that district, and we're here for their support. On a lighter note, I'll just echo what Teresa mentioned about our girls and boys basketball teams. I mean, they're out there really, really working hard and having fun. And, it's great to see them challenge themselves to new levels and their skills. And I'm looking forward to what they achieve and how they grow in that sport. I think before the pandemic, I remember we had a staff who was teaching volleyball, right? And again, I look forward to what we can do in the fall with the sports program, our athletic program, and hopefully, because that's what the kids love to do. They love these challenges. And with that being said, that's all I have for tonight.
I just had an update. Trustee Brown has texted and she is available on the 20th. So I will let Dr. Smith know that that is going to work for us. I hope not.
So
We can move quickly. That depends on
Yeah.
you.
Superintendent Bill, if there's any thing you'd like to share.
Oh, no. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And we're going to pause and go into closed session. And we're going to take a 5-minute break, go into closed session, and then we'll adjourn out of closed session.
have a good night.
Thank you.
The time.
Oh, time is 8:11. Thank you.